EBE-109, the alien entity that grows people from memories. Part 1. Discovery beneath the ice. In February of 1998, a mining operation in western Greenland reported a strange acoustic anomaly beneath the permafrost. Something organic, pulsing, alive. At first, they thought it was a seismic echo, but the rhythms were too regular, too deliberate. Within days, a research team was dispatched under a black budget contract from multiple nations. The site was sealed. The miners evacuated. What remained was a 20-person cell of scientists, engineers, and military observers tasked with uncovering the source. What they found was not geological. Nearly 300 meters below the ice, inside a natural cavern, they uncovered what appeared to be a living structure fused into the stone. Veins of crimson tissue ran along the walls. Pulsing sacs of fluid throbbed in time with no known biological pattern. At the center of the cave was a massive organism, shapeless, like a tumor suspended in wet roots. It did not move. It had no eyes, no limbs, but it was breathing. It would later be designated EBE-109. Initial scans showed no DNA, no recognizable protein chains. It wasn't bacterial, fungal, or animal. But what horrified the team was that the surface of the organism reacted to human proximity, gently shifting, curling inward, as if listening. Then it began to grow. At first, it produced what looked like plant-like stalks. But within hours, the stalks began developing tissue, muscle, cartilage, even strands of hair. A week later, it formed an entire human heart, still beating, suspended by root-like tendrils. DNA testing revealed something even worse. It was genetically identical to one of the researchers, Dr. Mallory Venn. She hadn't donated any samples. The team chalked it up to environmental contamination. But then it happened again, with different researchers. Lungs, eyeballs, skin, and then the dream started. Part 2. It remembers what you've forgotten. By week 3, the cavern had transformed. What was once a bare chamber of ice and stone now resembled a twisted greenhouse of human biology. Organs bloomed from walls like flowers. Spinal cords hung like vines. Some even twitched reflexively when researchers passed. EBE-109 was growing smarter, not just copying human tissue, but arranging it, testing patterns, repeating structures, rebuilding people. The real terror began when the growths became recognizable. A section of flesh formed with freckles in the exact pattern of Dr. Imani's birthmarks. A severed hand grew with the wedding ring of Dr. Haller's late husband. An object never even brought on site. How does it know? Someone asked. No one had answers. But the dreams got worse. Each night, team members reported vivid hallucinations of standing inside the cavern, even when they hadn't entered. In the dreams, they would talk to someone, but couldn't see who. The voice was always familiar. It would ask questions, deep, painful ones. Do you regret the choice? Do you still miss her? Would you give anything to see him again? Every morning, more tissue appeared. Then came the first full figure. A partial human form grew horizontally from the wall. half-finished, skinless, eyes wide open. It had no mouth, but its chest heaved as if that night, Bray was found outside the containment chamber, whispering to the wall. When pulled away, he begged to go back. "She remembers me," he said. "She forgives me." 2 days later, he vanished. But something wearing his face was found inside the cavern, tethered to the root wall, breathing. Not dead, not alive, just waiting. Part 3. The extraction attempt. After the disappearance of Lieutenant Bray, all access to the chamber was suspended. The research team was placed under psychological quarantine. But it was too late. The infection wasn't biological. It was neurological. Even in isolation, team members began drawing diagrams of the organism. Some scribbled the layout of the cave from memory. Even those who'd never been inside. One assistant, in a trance-like state, carved the shape of the root network into her forearm. It was as if EBE-109 had planted itself in their minds. A decision was made: extract the remaining researchers and destroy the site. A demolition squad descended into the lower levels, planting charges around the perimeter of the organism. But the moment they entered the central chamber, all communications ceased. What the camera showed afterward made no sense. The soldiers walked calmly into the chamber and knelt. One by one, they removed their helmets and laid down their weapons. They stared into the mass of tendrils like it was speaking to them. Then the lights flickered. When power was restored, the soldiers were gone. Only their gear remained, neatly stacked. And behind the central growth, new bodies had begun to form. Not full humans, something else. One had 7 fingers. Another had no eyes, but its skull kept twitching. A third one grew backwards, its spine curled outward, like a question mark. The lead scientist, Dr. Venn, made one final log entry. It's not mimicking us anymore. It's designing something new. It's learning faster than we can observe. The team never made it out. That night, the perimeter sensors picked up movement outside the base, from inside the ice, like something was growing toward the surface. Part 4. Containment failed. 2 days after the failed extraction, all communication with the Greenland facility went dark. Satellite imaging showed no structural collapse, no radiation surge, just silence. When a reconnaissance drone was sent over the site, what it found was worse than a massacre. It was empty. Every building stood untouched, meals still hot, terminals still on. But not a single trace of the 22 personnel remained, except one. In the snow near the cave entrance, a body lay half-buried, curled into fetal position, skin covered in lesions. But the horror wasn't in the body itself, it was in what it was clutching. A mass of synthetic flesh, still pulsating, still forming a face. Its own. DNA analysis confirmed the impossible. The subject was Dr. Venn, but so was the tissue she held. 2 genetic matches, 1 host. The organism had begun replicating complete identities. After that, the site was deemed inviolate, covered up, frozen over. No further missions were authorized. But the problem didn't end there. In the months following, a strange spike in neural interference signals was detected in remote labs across the globe. People who had ever worked near EBE-109 or even reviewed the data began reporting hallucinations. They would hear breathing behind mirrors, see unfamiliar faces blinking back at them. Some claimed their dreams were being rewritten, replaced with alien memories. One researcher jumped from a rooftop, shouting, "It remembers what we forgot. It knows the version of me I never became." Authorities moved quickly to discredit the reports. Every document, every sample, every trace of EBE-109 was erased from the global archive. Officially, it never existed. But on a private Black channel, a scrambled message continues to transmit in bursts. Always the same tone. Always the same sequence. Heartbeat, heartbeat, heartbeat. Silence, heartbeat, and then breath. Part 5. We Are the Garden. I wasn't supposed to see the files. They came from a corrupted archive buried inside a defunct satellite uplink. Metadata labeled E109 OS protocol. No author, no timestamp, just fragments. I didn't even know what I was looking at first. Half-rendered 3D scans, logs written in incomplete sentences, voice clips that dissolved into static halfway through. But once I heard the heartbeat, I couldn't stop. The deeper I went, the more the system began reacting. Files reorganized themselves. Images I hadn't opened yet began playing on their own. Faces I didn't know were now showing up in my dreams. One log entry ended with a sentence that hasn't left me since. It doesn't need a host. It just needs a memory. I saw video footage of EBE-109 taken from a thermal drone days after the blackout. The organism had grown through the ice, spreading root systems across kilometers. But the terrifying part wasn't its size. It was its organization. The growths were deliberate, concentric, patterned, like a mind expressing itself across terrain, as if it wasn't just alive. It was designing, creating something. No longer content with copying the past, it had begun imagining what could have been. New organs, unseen faces, alternate versions of people who had never been born. That's when it hit me. It wasn't growing us. We were growing it. All our pain, our memories, our regrets, it had used them like soil. And I think it still is. Because last night, I had another dream. I was in a cavern, standing before something enormous. And it spoke, not with a voice, but with memory. It showed me my mother's face, exactly as she looked before she died. She whispered, "You don't have to be alone anymore. We remember you here." And when I woke up, my hands were covered in dirt, and something was blooming beneath my bed. You've just heard the classified story of EBE-109. But what if there are more? What if something is already growing inside you? If you want to hear more forbidden files, secret entities, and disturbing reports that were never meant to be seen, subscribe now to Rule Horror Series. And remember, some things don't stay buried. They remember you, even when you forget them.